name is Rolando Ortiz. I was born and raised in the city of Commerce, which is a small city in East LA. I'm a son to immigrant parents. My parents both immigrated here with my 4 brothers and 2 sisters.
Oh.
So basically, all my familia was born in Mexico, and I was the only one born in the States. So I kind of, I think my parents expected more from me, because I was the only one born here, and since I had I guess the essentials that they didn't have, that my other brothers didn't have. So I took the wrong path. Two of my older brothers got involved in gangs.
Okay.
Which a lot of people do from where we come from, and I kind of followed that path. And it wasn't because I had, my parents weren't around. I had 2 loving parents. I don't know how my dad did it, but he raised 7 kids on a warehouse salary.
Wow.
And my mom stayed home, cooked, cleaned, did the whole thing. And it was more. I till this day, like, I can't really put the specific reason why. Yeah, why I gravitated to that lifestyle, but it could have been because I saw my brothers doing it, or because my other friends were doing it, but there's people that are doctors, are lawyers, that fell from the same tree that I fell from, and I just chose a different path. And it took me a long time to understand, okay, I can't be doing this for the rest of my life. As a minor, I was, as a juvenile, I was in the system, as an adult. And I think for me, the biggest thing was in 2000. I think it was, I was arrested for something really serious. I was arrested for 2 murders and 4 attempted murders.
Oh wow.
And
you love me, right? I just want to say we cool.
Yeah,
I
love you. Yeah, we cool. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
At first, I'm like, what?
We're good.
All right, I'm good. I trust you. Ain't do it.
No, you're good. You're good.
You don't know me, so
yeah. I don't know her, so, but you're good.
All right. We'll talk.
Yeah, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
So that it was 3 of us, and we were looking at the death penalty, and
wow.
I remember saying to myself, if I, if this goes away, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna do the right thing. At that time I had 1 son, and I just couldn't fathom my son me not raising my son, and me being behind bars, and I kind of took a backseat to everything. I started getting more into my poetry. I was always into poetry, so I always tell people that reading and writing saved my life. Because I had poetry to fall back onto, and it opened a lot of doors for me. I did public speaking. I spoke at some, prestigious schools. Worked with troubled youth, and I think that was the biggest thing that I loved, was helping the troubled youth and going back to my old community and doing writing workshops and not so much like telling the kids, this is bad. They know it's bad. I knew it was bad.
Yeah.
But I was just giving them another outlet for them to express themselves, because I remember as a kid, I didn't know how to express myself. My parents, they were old school Mexican. It was like,
really communicate.
They don't communicate.
Yeah.
They don't sit there. Oh, ¿cómo te sientes?
Exactamente.
They tell you, amárrate huevo, and and
that's it. Take
That's it. So a lot of these kids, I really was in touch with them.
Nice.
And I made some really good friendships with some of these kids, and some of them have grown up to be really good, productive, citizens, and some end up going to prison, some died. But at least I was there to help some of them out. Right. And I think that was my biggest thing, was to give back, because for so many years I poisoned my people, I destroyed my people, I destroyed my community, and I felt a certain way, as I opened my eyes, like I can't do that anymore. I need something better in my life.
When you were in the gangs, you were you were a teenager at that time?
Oh yeah, I was a kid. Yeah, I was a kid since we were running around from 11, 12 years old.
Oh wow.
Doing things that we shouldn't be doing at 11, 12 years old. Yeah. So
when you were there,
people have this perception of gangs.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Just finish what you're going
Go
to
ahead.
say. Oh, so when you were there, what I'm saying
If
is,
you have
like, you're talking about perception of gangs. What was your perception? Like, you were in it. You didn't have a bad, your family wasn't like leading you in the wrong direction. You didn't have parents who didn't care. So when you were there, what was it that it was giving you that you felt that it was okay for you to be there?
There was two things that really attracted me to it, right? That made me gravitate to it was the money that when I was hustling, and the adrenaline from doing the bad things.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I guess the excitement, it just it was just something for me that really, I don't know, that I loved and I enjoyed it. Even to this day, like sometimes I talk to people and I say, yeah, I miss it.
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
I know it's wrong, but I miss it.
Well, I think you missed the adrenaline kind of it, like the rush, the rush of the energy of it,
the risk taking, maybe.
Well, and not just that, but like the camaraderie, the friendship, the that I had with my friends. Like, I miss that. Most of my friends are in prison.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard. But the good thing about how I grew up was I had two sets of friends, right? I had friends that were in the gang, and then I had a set of friends that weren't in the gang. And the funny part is the ones that weren't not in the gang, they have a family, they're good, they're they're living life right, and I still keep in contact with them to this day. I mean, we still hang out, but it's just it's interesting to see. When people always say, "Oh, if you get in a gang, there's you're gonna die or you're gonna go to prison," and it's true. Like, you're gonna die or you're gonna go to prison. Like, that's that's what's gonna happen. It's. But I think we know what we're getting ourselves into.
Yeah. I mean, I think also, like, when the documentaries that I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, and saw, is like that. It's like you said, it's like there is yes, you guys know that you're doing bad stuff. Like, of course, like even kids who are not doing that bad stuff, like even growing up, you tell us not to touch that, we're going to touch that. That's just part of the norm of growing, right? But when you're in a gang, the people that you like is this family to you now, and this love that you have. So yeah, you doing bad shit together, but the thing that's connecting you guys is the friendship and the love and the brotherhood and connection that you didn't have with your own family, but now you're getting it here. So that's what keeps you there, because that's your definition of this is what family is.
And where I grew up, it was more like we all knew each other. We all grouped. Either you're related somehow, or you just lived in that neighborhood for so long. Just like us, like I said, I had two older brothers that were considered like my older homeboys, and they had their friends, and then their friends had little brothers, my age. So we all just eventually end up being from the same gang. And some of them, some of us weren't. Some of them didn't get involved and did their things, but a lot of us fell into that.
Yeah, I want to ask you something, because this is like this is the feeling I'm getting. Like, when I grew up in the projects, like I had a lot of friends, and a lot of my friends too, like they were drug dealers or they was in gangs, right? And like, we have this perception that like you're not supposed to talk to them, that if you're involved, you're gonna get drawn down that path too. I never did. I just knew that wasn't for me, and like I didn't want to get involved in that. But I didn't mind their friendships. So like, here I am talking to you, right? And you're telling and sharing this with me. And before we started even talking about, like, we had a connection through Instagram, and like not knowing that, well, until you shared, you have this whole other lifestyle. So like, and sometimes when I would sit back and think, I'm like if I was there next to him, like, come on, Rolando, what, like, change your ways. Like, why you're such a good person? Why are you doing that? And I want to ask you, like, what kept you doing that, knowing that, like, yo, this is a bad path. I am doing bad things, and I may like the adrenaline and the family from it, but like, I guess I always want to ask that question, like, like, yo, the same way we just, was chilling at school, cracking jokes, like, you can keep on doing. You don't have to be doing that in this negative way as well. Like, I will probably always try to promote. Come on, like, come over to the light side, Rolando. So I guess I wanted to keep it short. Like, what kept you there, knowing that like this shit is wrong? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I feel like it doesn't fit your characteristic, but you're still there.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it's loyalty. Yeah, it's definitely loyalty, and when you see your friends get shot and killed, something there's a seed, implanted in you that is a seed of rage, right? And you're upset. So there's a number of things that kept me in that lifestyle.
Gotcha.
It was loyalty to my friends. It just la mala vida. It was just, that's what I enjoyed. And it was, other than the loyalty, it was just, if I had an issue, like I knew that I can count on them. I knew that I can pick up the phone, and vice versa. And people would tell me like, "Oh, what you're doing is wrong." I knew it. I knew that. It's not like I was like, "Oh, I didn't know it was wrong." Like I thought this was just normal, but I knew it was wrong.
It's just like this tough complication of knowing that, like, yeah, it's wrong, but I could count on these people. Here. I could call at 3 a.m. and they'll never leave me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly. Yeah. And don't get me wrong.
And if I leave,
I was going to ask, was there a thing where if you leave, you're going to get shot, or was it always by choice? You could always leave by choice.
Yeah, you can leave, but it's like, if you leave,
you don't have no one no more.
Yeah, you really,
the loyalty and that.
You're alone.
Yeah.
Just thinking about this way. Okay, say you leave, and you have a tattoo that represents the neighborhood you're from, and somebody sees you in the streets and sees a tattoo. They don't care if you walked away. They're still active, and they're going to consider you a member, so it's going to happen. So and I think don't get me wrong, there's guys that are that are from where I'm from that are just naturally crazy. They're nuts. But everybody's story is different of why they decided to be to join the gang. Like I said, my brothers were from there, so I kind of watched them growing up and watched them doing what they're doing. I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was watching my brothers cut up dope, and I was like, I can do that. Like, that doesn't look hard, and I can do that. And then they try to keep me away from it for a long time, but I kept going around their backs and finding a way to hang out with the guys, and I think finally at one point they just accepted that
that's it.
He's here, and they instead of just like I think what they did was teach me. They taught me how to survive and how, what I needed to do. I think, if not, then I would have been lost.
if you felt, because it seems like your brothers were your role models at that time, and just like looking up to them because they're just natural, they're bigger brothers.
Yeah.
Do you feel that, like, if they was doing it in this journey, their path was the drugs and the gangs? Let's say their path was music or playing basketball. Do you think because you looked up to them, you would have went that path too? Or
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll give you an example. I have, like I said, I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters, right? So my oldest brother, intelligent man. I mean, this guy was smart. He was offered a scholarship to go to a private high school, but because he wasn't a legal resident, he couldn't go. And I remember, like, that always stuck on my mind. Like, he could have done something really good for himself, right? And but I'm over here doing dumb shit, and it's like that was always a battle for me. It was like, I know I could be doing better, but I just kept doing bad.
So when did this poetry kick in for you? Because it seemed like you said, it saved your life. It brought so much to you, and also gave you an outlet to express yourself, where I felt like maybe, you was expressing yourself with your friend that you connected in the brotherhood of the gang, but there was certain things you still didn't feel comfortable to share because it wasn't machismo or something like that. And like, maybe they would say, "Oh, writing poetry is gay" or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you'll probably be able to be more vulnerable.
Right. You couldn't be vulnerable maybe around them for certain things. But so when did you start writing the poetry? And what did it bring you in those moments, and was it giving you messages when you was in that lifestyle too?
Yeah. I started writing poetry when I was like 12 years old, and I use it as like a way of self-therapy. I would express myself on paper. I couldn't tell other people how I felt, so I would express it on paper. And the funny thing is, I wouldn't keep the poems. I would rip them up after, throw them away. Right. So I would write poems of how I felt, and then I would throw them away. And one day a teacher Mr. Thompson. I'll never forget him. He was a sixth grade teacher of mine, and he was like, "What do you got there?" And I was like, "Poem." He's like, "Let me see it." And he read it, and he started giving me books to read.
Nice.
So that's where my love for reading books came, and I was able to read about other places in the world where I was stuck in that bubble. I never left.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford to go on vacation, so I was always in the barrio, and so that helped me learn about other places, from the country, from the world, everything. And I kept writing, and then in 2000, I'm trying to think, it was 2003 or 2002. I was doing a poetry reading, an open mic in LA, and Bruce George, who was the creator of Def Poetry Jam.
Oh, okay.
He was there. He was there, and then we started, talking, and he's like, "I want to work with you," and I'm like, "Yeah, right." Like, this guy wants to work with me, like, whatever. So, we exchange information, and a few months later, I get an email from him, and hey, let's do this, let's do that. And I worked with him on an anthology called The Bandana Republic, and it's an anthology of ex and current gang members, and all that money went for gang prevention for the youth, right? So that's where I got that spark where, okay, I need to give back.
Yeah.
And so Bruce George really opened a lot of doors for me to, for poetry. He introduced me to one of my favorite poets, Luis Rodriguez. And when me and Luis met, like, we hit it off really good. And I started going to his, he has a bookstore and a culture center in the Valley. So I started going over there and helping out with some of the kids, and we did open mics, and then I started doing public speaking, and the poetry literally, that if it wasn't for poetry, I would never have experienced any of that. So it really kept me occupied. It showed me a different perspective of life, of that I do have the power to help people, and that words do mean something, and that people do listen. And my love for poetry just took off, and it was pretty cool. I was even hosting my own poetry reading in a bar in East LA. So it was beer and poets. It was a shit, right? And then I went to New York to film a documentary on the Banana Republic. And
what's that?
That's the anthology.
Oh, the anthology.
The book. Yeah. So I went there, and it was like, it was surreal to me to be in New York. And then they tell us, they tell me, oh, we're going to go to the New Yorker, and they're going to give us a spot. And I'm like, shit. To me, that history. Was like, yeah, the history of poetry, not just that, but like just the atmosphere. Yeah. Just, and I have a little thing that I used to call the Cholo bucket list, right? Like, and that was on my bucket list. Like, that was
nice.
It wasn't even about performing there. Like, my bucket list was to go there. But when they said, we're going to perform, I was like, wow. Like, I was like, it was just, I remember I got up there, and for like a second, like, it just got all quiet. Like, I couldn't hear anybody. And I had like tunnel vision. Like, I was just looking straight. And I just remember like taking it all in and thinking like, you know what? Like, I did it. Like, I'm here.
Time stopped, and that was your moment to take it all in.
And I thought about my teacher. I had an English teacher in 8th grade, and she caught me writing a poem, and she's like, "You're never gonna be a poet." And I was thinking about her, and I was like, "You fucking bitch! If you only knew, like, oh, fuck you."
Where's she at? Send her the video.
So what I ended up doing is I got a picture from when when I was performing, and I found her, and I emailed it to her.
Did she say anything?
Yes. She sent me this beautiful email that I just like, I couldn't believe it. Like, and she couldn't believe it, and she knew what I was up to. I mean, so it that really inspired me. Like, thinking, okay, somebody opened the door for me, then I need to open the door for somebody else. If it's not for poetry, then it's to change their life, to get their life together. There's been some of the troubled youth that I worked that ended up going to college, and I got one kid he's going to be finishing law school. And I met him when he was a senior in high school, and he's doing really good. And it's just, I kind of stepped back from that for a little bit. it started getting kind of weird in the poetry scene out here in LA, where a lot of poets didn't want to do anything for free. You know what I mean? Like it's like,
they wanted to get paid. No.
Yeah, like, well, they need to buy a certain amount of my books, and I'm like, what's, that's not what it is. So I kind of separated myself from some of those people, and I kind of took a back seat from the open mic, and I just started doing my own thing, because I felt better when I did it by myself than having a couple of people with me, and because we wanted to help out, but our focus wasn't the same. They wanted to.
You didn't have you didn't have an agenda behind it. Your thing was like pure, like I want to help, and let's also just create, and let's just we're artists. And I understand that. They want to get paid. But there's certain times for that. There's certain events for that. But like when you're going to help out and give back to the community, it's got to be, like you said, pure. It's got to be honest. It's got to be because from within you, because you want to, not because you're going to try to make a penny. It's like, I would take books, from the anthologies, and I'll pass them. I'll give them away. I wouldn't try to sell them. And I think that's a big deal, because a lot of people, where I come from, they make it and they don't come back. They don't. There's a few that do come back, but the majority they don't come back. They don't come back and plant that seed and try to help somebody out. They figure out they made it and they're done with it. They don't want to do it.
They don't want to go back to that.
Yeah, and I understand. I mean, I can see why, but like I said, for so long, that I was doing bad, I felt like I needed to do something good, and that's pretty much where my volunteering and everything, started coming back. Helping kids in juvenile hall, doing writing workshops.
Did that happen after prison or?
Yeah. Oh, way after. Yeah, that was way after.
So did you write in prison? Like, were you? Your poetry then?
Yeah, I wrote. Just like I told you, I wrote. I was writing as a source of therapy. That's pretty much
that's
to
how
stay
you were
focused.
able to pull through.
Yeah.
How was the transition for you being in jail and then knowing that you was going to get out and maybe still have those demons around you to influence you to go back on that lifestyle? What kept you on that path to no, I want to do good and I want to give back? So if you could just explain that journey of you being in prison, then you starting to make the changes, and then you realizing too, once you get out, that I want to follow this new path and also give back.
So there was a big gap between me being released and then me changing, right? I'm going to say there was probably a good 10-year gap.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And, like I said, it took me a long time to understand that, right? That, okay, I got it until I caught that case. And that's when I said, okay, that's it. I'm done.
So I understand. You got released from jail, went back to that lifestyle. Then this case comes years down the road, and that was the thing that set you to I'm gonna start changing and doing good.
Yeah.
It wasn't I was in jail and I learned something there. I'm not gonna go back to the lifestyle. You actually went to that life.
You went
back. Yeah. I went back to it, and I guess the thought of spending the rest of my life in prison or being on death row woke me up. It was a reality check. It was just like, I had a son, and I was like, I want to raise him. I don't want anybody else raising him. I need to figure this out now. I'm not getting any younger. And that's when I picked up doing the open mics and, keeping busy. And then I started hosting, my own open mic. So that kept me busy. And then doing other stuff with poetry. That's kind of, and then when
how did you fight the temptation of the challenges that may come your way to draw you back? Because anytime you're trying to do something good now, of course, you at the end of the day, that they're family. Those are the people that so they're not no longer oh, those are my friends that they're part of the gang. I was like, no, these people knew me for years.
So I moved away. I moved. Nice. Maybe 60 miles away, but I still kept in contact with my friends. And
did they understood that?
Oh yeah. The thing is, I don't want to see the guy next to me do bad all his life. I want him to do good.
Yeah.
And that's the same. That's the same thing that they gave me was like, you're doing good, keep doing good. Like, you know, I have an 8th grade education, right? You know, the last grade I completed was 8th grade. I mean, I went to the other grades, but I didn't complete them. You know, but
because you killed your teachers, I get it.
Yeah, there you go. Give me an A. Give me an A. So I kind of, you know, I got this job. I'll tell you the story about this job because it's actually pretty cool. So I got this job, right? And, you know, I showed up to the job interview and I showed up in a, you know, suit and tie, right? Like, all right, I'm, you know, and it's for a warehouse position, by the way.
Yeah. But still.
And the owner goes, what the fuck? You don't get to work in the office right away. You're working in the warehouse. Go home and change. And I was like, all right, cool. So I went home and, you know, changed, came back, and he took a liking to me for some reason. And, you know, he started teaching me about the industry that we were in. And he told me, hey, look, every other Friday, come dressed up and I'm going to take you with me to go do sales calls and meet some of the customers. And I was like, all right, perfect. And he took me under his wing and he goes, look, I'm going to send you to school. I want you to go to school and I want you to learn, you know, Excel and, you know, computer skills and, you know, I want to bring you into the office. Yeah. So he sent me to school. I finished my classes. And as soon as I was done with my classes, he put me in the office. And while I was working at this job, I got arrested for those 2 murders. And and he went to visit me in jail and said, you know, if you need a lawyer, I'll help you. And he was, Bill Miller is his name. He's a great man and I'll never forget him. And that was part of it. I ended up going to do county jail. I ended up doing county time, ended up doing 9 months, and they gave my job back.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, they gave my job back, and this company was a blessing. And you know, he taught me the ins and outs of the industry, and you know, I went in the office and I did office work for them. You know, inside sales there for like 9 years, and I got a job opportunity with a competitor, and they were paying me they offered me like 15 grand more, and I turned it down.
Wow.
And he was at a golf tournament, and the competitor was there, and then he's like, they go up to him, they're like, hey, Bill, what are you doing to your employees over there? And he's like, why? He's like, we offered Rolando 15 grand more than what he's making, and he turned us down. And Bill's like, is the position still open? He's like, yeah. He's like, he'll call you on Monday.
Oh, wow.
And Monday morning when I walked in the office, he's like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, no, I go, you know, my loyalty is to you. Like, you know, I went to jail twice. They came to pick me up to take me to jail from here, and you guys gave my job back. Like, no, and he's like, no, your loyalty is to your family. Like, you know, you need to grow. That's why I taught you what I taught you. So I ended up taking that job, you know, making more money. And, you know, it was just,
wow. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah. What a great boss.
You know,
is he still around, Bill Miller?
Yeah, he's still around. He's actually he's in his late 80s.
Wow.
And we still talk.
I would love
where he's at?
I would love to get him on the show.
Yeah.
Because just to hear his, you know, his story, but like also get to know like this guy has a beautiful heart, you know.
Oh, I looked at him as a father. I remember he picked me up from jail one time, right? And he told me like what are you gonna do? Like you need to do something. Like, you can't be doing this. And I remember I was like, I felt so embarrassed. You know, I've never felt so ashamed of somebody telling me, you know, you're doing wrong. You know, before I would go one ear, not the other. Like, I know I'm doing wrong, but that specific day when he told me that, like it resonated in my head. Like, dude, like you wake up. Like,
well, I think also a big part of it too is that he saw you for who you were. He saw you. He saw you.
He saw your heart.
Yeah, but not only that, he saw Rolando. He didn't see the gangs. He didn't see none of that. He saw Rolando, and he gave you that opportunity to see yourself and to be yourself and not judge, but also to guide you to like, yo, this is the other way. You should do this. And he also heard you, where I felt like other people were around you, and you know they know what you was about, but they didn't really hear you. And here's a guy that took you underneath the wing and heard you and let you be you, and also you taking a moment to also feeling okay to talk to someone without poetry, like actually talking to Bill.
and connect.
and connect.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's very powerful.
And it was weird because the company was called McGee Company, right? And everybody would call it McGee's because in the warehouse there's nothing but parolees and gangsters that work there. and we ran that warehouse flush. Like we used to take care of that job. Like I had two other homeboys that worked with me, and like I said, everybody was parolees there, and on Friday they would have beer 30, and Bill would come with a 24 pack of beer and drink beer with us in the warehouse. He was really, one of the most genuine people that I ever met in my life. And, not only that, how he helped me out, and, when I was incarcerated, he would write to me.
Nice. Wow.
And, he did a lot for me. And I always thank him for every time we talk, I always thank him. Thank you for what you did for me. Cause I wouldn't be, I wouldn't have this career. I wouldn't be making the money that I'm making. I mean, Jen tells me, like, you make more money than some people that, have college degrees. And I'm like, I'm so grateful for that, because I could have be stuck in a, warehouse job or something, who knows what I would have been. But it's just
true.
Definitely.
He gave me an opportunity to do something. And
So
I think
beautiful.
it makes me feel good that I took advantage of it, basically, and then throwing it away. Cause I almost threw it away, but I was smart enough to realize it.
Because they came and arrested him.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Because I got arrested. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And he used to make fun of how we dressed. Like, when, we had these cutoff shorts that go down past our knee. And he used to say, "Are those short pants or long shorts?" And he goes, "You look like a damn pirate." He would just talk so, but he took care of us. He took care of us like family. Like if somebody needed something, he would do it. And there was other guys that were there that went to jail, and they came back and they had their job. They were so understanding. They knew where we came from, and they knew that the struggles that we were going through. Yeah. And they walked us through, and they said basically, and in their action said, "Okay, we're going to help you. If you fuck this up, that's on you. But you got an opportunity here."
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, how was it now when you being a father and having children? How did that change your life now in another way? And what did that bring to you? Like, and because like you didn't have that. You had a loving family, mom and dad, and that was there, but they was missing certain things that you wish you would have had. Just something as simple as like, take me somewhere, talk to me, hear me out. Did that influence you as well to become a father or a parent to what you didn't have to be for them? Yes.
One of the biggest things is, I love you. Even though I know my mom and my dad loved me, they never said, "Oh, I love you." They're the Mexicanos, old school.
Yeah.
That wasn't part of it. So I make sure I tell my kids every day, I love you. Even if I'm upstairs and they're yelling downstairs, I'll yell, "Hey, I love you guys," and now I love you too. And it's those words have such impact when you're growing up as a kid, because you want to know that your parents love you. And even though I knew my parents loved me, like I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until I had my kid. Until I had my kid. And my oldest son, like I missed his first birthday because I was incarcerated. And I remember I felt so, how can I put it? Like I felt so ashamed and disgusted in myself that I missed his first birthday. And I promised my dad, before he passed, I said, like, I'll never miss another birthday ever again for him. Like I won't do that. And my son's 23, and I haven't missed any of his birthdays since then. So it made me a better father. That's for sure. And communication, communicating with my kids, that's important, because I didn't have any communication with my father, and my mom, because we were growing up different than what they were going. So they couldn't understand. Even if they tried to, it wasn't working. Yeah. But now I have, like, I know when my kids are doing something wrong or they're trying to be sneaky, because come on, I was a pro at that. Like, get out of here. Like, don't try that shit on me. Like, I know everything. I know when I know when they're lying, and I tell them, just be honest. Like, I know you're gonna lie. I can tell already, and they're fidgeting. I know all that. So it definitely made me a better loving. I love being a father. That's one of the proudest things. Anything that I've done in the world is have kids, and I have a 4-year-old daughter that she's like the world to me. Like,
how different is that with boys girl. And a girl?
Oh yeah, it's for me it's different. Don't get me wrong, like I love my boys, but like daddy's little girl, like she's just like how can I put it? Like she loves me unconditionally. So that unconditional love that I get from her, it just it makes me feel really good, and it makes me want to be a better person and a better father. It's hard to explain, but it just that, and she knows how to work me. Like she has this, oh daddy, and I'm like, Jen goes, she's working you. And in 2018, I went to the doctor for a regular checkup, right? Just my and the doctor's like, have you been told you have a heart murmur? And I said no. And they're like, all right, we're gonna send you to go get a ultrasound. It might be nothing, or it might be something serious. I was like, okay. So I go. They're doing the ultrasound. The girl's like, okay, he's checking, and she's like, hang on one second. And she takes off, and then another guy comes, and then he's checking me. Wow. And then he's like, hang on one second. And when he said that, I was like, all right, something's fucking wrong. Like, fuck, what's going on? Like,
just tell
me. The cardiologist comes in, and she's an Indian lady, and she's like, how do you like your news? I said, just tell me what's wrong. She's like, okay, both of your valves are completely shot. They're not working.
Ooh.
And I'm like, what? And she's like, are you short of breath? I said, no. So they're like, can you walk like long periods without getting tired? I said, yeah. So they made me get on the bike and do the stress test. Mm-hmm. And they're like, are you tired, or are you short of breath? No, I felt fine. I mean, I had even been playing handball like maybe twice a week at that, before that, and I felt fine. So they kept me there for 7 days straight doing tests, like, asking me if I've been to this part of the world, or this country, or if I worked in this kind of industry. And I was like, no, they just trying to find out why my valves just completely shot.
Yeah.
And finally they said, you know what, the only thing we can think of is that you were born with bad valves, and as you got older, they just they're like, did you feel a certain way when you were growing up? I said, my heart rate was always high. And there'd be times where I'll be watching TV with Jen, and Jen would be laying on my chest, and she's like, man, your heart just started beating really fast. I said, yeah. I said, it's normal. I mean, it was always like that for me.
Yeah.
So they sent me home after 7 days, and I went back a week later, and I had open heart surgery.
Damn.
So during heart surgery, it's supposed to be only a 4-hour surgery. So after 4 hours, they go out and talk to my family, and they said, well, during the surgery, we found something else.
Oh my God.
They're like, not one, but we found 2 aneurysms in my heart. And they're like, we don't know how this guy was even alive. Like, like the doctor's like, he's a walking miracle. And I was just like, I mean, I didn't know this at the time, because obviously I'm, under, and so I wake up from surgery, and the doctors come back and tell me, how do you feel? And that's when the doctor told me, he's like, look, he's like, during surgery, it took longer because of this and that. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I was like,
your journey wasn't done yet. You're meant to be here.
Yeah. And it was funny because I smile a lot. Right.
Yeah.
And so the doctors and the nurses at the hospital, they're like, we've never met anybody that came out of heart surgery that was smiling. And I was like, well, fuck, I could have been dead.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like,
that helps too, your attitude.
Yeah. So they nicknamed me, the doctors and the nurses nicknamed me Smiley in there, because I was smiling all the time.
That's so cute.
And so when I came home, I couldn't lift anything over, I think it was 5 pounds.
Oh,
so I couldn't hold my daughter, and that was killing me. Like, I mean, it was like the hardest thing ever for me. And in October of 2018, I was able, they're like, okay, you can be able to lift her. And the first day I lift her, and she put her head on my shoulder, and she wouldn't let go. She just wanted to stay there. And she stood there for like 10, 15 minutes till she knocked out.
Oh.
She literally fell asleep on me, and I will never forget that. I'll never forget that.
Oh,
I was gonna
wow.
ask you. Oh, go ahead. Go finish.
No, I would just say that made me even appreciate my kids and love my kids even more after that.
Definitely.
It seems like that this is an ongoing journey of like forgiveness for yourself and of the things that you've done, and also I feel like a part of it you want to help others because you wish that you did have that help, but you want to help others, guide them to the right path. But you also, I feel like you feel like there's a need that you have to do it. And I guess the question I want to ask, like, have you learned to forgive yourself for the stuff that you have done and to like move forward to know like and not punish yourself to like, oh, I gotta keep giving back because this is one way of forgiving myself for the shit that I've done? Or is that an ongoing process of like, you know, it is what it is. I'm not human, but I made things right. I don't need to always maybe be hard on myself to, I want to know a little bit about that. Cause sometimes people, they change their ways, but now they think that like I gotta give for life, and they never reach this moment of like, all right, I gave enough, and I'm done. They will never reach that because they feel like this guilt. I got to because I don't forgive myself.
Definitely, I made peace with myself and for the things that I've done in my past, and I shut that down and close it, put it in a box, and threw it away, and I'm good.
That's awesome.
So because if not, I wouldn't be able to focus on my kids. I wouldn't be able to focus on giving back. I wouldn't be able to focus on the positive things. At some time, I did feel a little heavy in the heart for the things that I've done. But like I said, I had to find the peace within me and make peace with myself, and I done that. And
how did you find that peace? Just like if there's somebody else listening, what advice would you give others? Who've been in that situation that still struggles to find just a common ground of their past and where they're at now, and saying it's okay. I'm human, and we all make mistakes, and I'm moving forward, and I want to give back, but not always give back thinking that this is a path of redemption. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like I'm giving back not because I want to.
If you focus on the positive things, if you focus on positive things, if you focus on being righteous and just being, how can I put it, like just being nice to people, and changing your ways, the bad things that you've done in your past, they'll go away. They'll go away, but you got to focus on the good, because the good will always override the bad.
All right, so go ahead.
You got to find that within yourself, and everybody's different. Everybody will pick something different to get them to that path, and for me it was giving back.
So we're moving forward to the segment. It's called Let's Look Inside, and the first question for Let's Look Inside is, what do you love about yourself?
I love that I'm a father. Most of all, I mean, that's one of the most important things. I always tell people I don't want to be known. I don't want to be remembered for the things that I did. I want to be remembered for the kids that I raised, because that's important to me. And I love life, and I love where I'm at now. And I love that I can be able to sit here and do interviews like this with you guys, because it's very important, for people to hear. And I think another thing is that I want to, helping people. I love doing that. If it's a homeless guy on the street, or if it's somebody that's broken down, it's just helping people. I think the world needs a little bit more of that right now.
Yeah,
definitely. And the last question is, if the average lifespan was 40 years old, how would you live your life differently?
I wouldn't live it differently. Actually, there's one thing that I would do different.
What is that?
And that's I would have finished school and went and got a college degree.
Okay.
That's I think that's because I think knowledge, they say knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
and I think about, okay, I'm doing this. I'm doing what I'm doing with my life now.
Mhm.
Imagine if I had an education to back it up.
Mm.
Well, you know what?
And
I'm gonna say something there. Sorry to cut you off. I think in your case, in your journey, you don't need the knowledge of the school because
Yeah,
you have so much knowledge and the wisdom from the experience
yes,
that you
I
lived.
agree.
And
yes,
I feel like that connects more rather than someone telling you like from a book or
yes,
And you don't know if it's true or not what they're
yeah,
teaching
like
you.
yes,
to me, you don't have a degree, but talking to you, I feel like you have
You
a
have a
degree
life
of life.
degree.
You have a degree of life, and you have knowledge and wisdom. That's to me, it's is equipped to be taught in college by
Yep.
you.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
No, I
So
totally
yeah,
understand. Yeah,
but I also get the other side of like of
'Cause
you wanting that
society want, yeah.
not only
yeah,
for like a college degree because I want this to get a better job, but like you know that you're capable of getting a college degree, just like you're
yes,
capable of getting moving further in this gang life and this other life. You know that I
Mhm.
could do that too.
yes. And when I say that, I mean it. I would have had a college degree at 23 or whatever,
Mhm.
and I probably would have been able to open more doors for more people.
Yeah,
Mm.
That's kind of how I see it
yeah,
when I talk
Okay.
about being educated. Because there's certain doors that I can't open because I don't have a college degree, right?
yeah.
So
Okay.
if I had a college degree, then there was other doors that I would be able to open. But that's
I'll
pretty
give you
much the only thing
mines.
that I
Mine's
would
is
change.
collecting dust if you want mines. Mine's is
You
collecting
could
dust.
always get one too.
Yeah.
It's never too
And I can pass over the loans to you too if you want.
I got bad credit. No, just kidding.
We had this
Well, one
last
more,
this
yeah.
one last thing that we do on this in this segment. It's their reflection cards and they're shuffled and she's gonna
I
pick
just
one.
pick one
And there's
and
two
then
questions on them. So whatever the
Cool.
questions are, she's gonna ask you and whatever comes to mind.
Sounds good.
how have you changed this past year?
Yeah, I've had this like habit of being really like getting mad right away, like a short temper, basically.
Mm.
Mhm.
And it's funny, like I've gone to therapy
That's great.
for that,
Hey.
and I've really learned to speak with my heart and not with my anger, if
Mhm.
that
Oh,
makes sense.
yes.
So
Yes.
I've learned to listen better as well.
Mm. Can you share a little bit of that? Like, what was some
What's an
tools that you
example?
or tips that you learned how to
Oh,
do
that's a
that?
good one. Yeah.
How to
Like
To deal with
how to listen and also how
without
to
anger.
how to speak without using like the anger. Like, what was something she shared with you particularly to work on that could also probably help other people if they're listening? Like,
to think before anything.
mhm.
You know, we kind of have a habit of especially when we're upset, we just go off the gun and say some fucked up shit
Yeah,
sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So I've learned to think and process what
Mhm.
I'm feeling before I say anything. I think that's the biggest thing, and to listen. Uh, my communication skills when it came to my partner and to my kids was kind of old school and kind of
yeah,
built like, oh, don't talk to me like that, you're disrespecting me,
mhm,
Mhm.
and it's not that they're kids. And
mhm.
so that's one thing that I had to learn, and I had to work on, and I'm proud that I changed that about me.
Nice.
That's great. The second question is, what is a memory that will forever make you laugh out loud?
Nice.
Okay, so I was in the county jail, right?
Yeah.
And when you go to court, they put you on the bus and they tell you, okay, when we say your last name, give us your last three numbers, or else you're not getting on the bus. And there was a friend of mine, his name was Stomper. He was a big asset. He was like 6'3". And I told him, how much you want to make a bet I can get on the bus without saying, my last name or my first name or my last three. He goes, you won't. I said, I will. So they said, they go Ortiz. I said, which one? And they go Rolando. And I raised my hand up and I walked on the bus. And the sheriff, the deputy, looked at me like, you fucking asshole. Like, you got me. You got me.
Nice.
And I'm sitting on the bus, and so here comes Stomper Pendejo. He thinks he's going to be able to do the same thing. And they say his name, and he's like, all nervous. He goes, which one? And the sheriff was like 5'7", 5 short guy. so the sheriff gets mad. Oh, you want to fucking play games with me? And he's got this big old guy against the bus, and we're in the bus and we're all laughing. And I just remember I couldn't stop laughing, and it was funny because that guy Stomper, he ended up getting life without parole, and till this day, we still write to each other, and I tell him. And I always mention. Remember when you tried to get on the? Oh, shut up! Because it was like the fun because we all knew each other and we all like he's gonna fuck it up. Like he's gonna fuck it up.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was just. I mean, there's not a lot of things you can laugh about when you're incarcerated, right? When you're in jail. And on that ride home, on that ride from the court to the back to the county, we were just laughing about that. And it just,
that's a good story.
And we found something funny out of something sad, I guess, in a sad place. So
yeah,
I'll never forget that.